In this video we will be walking through some of the basic AutoCAD commands. First thing we're going to do is locate our AutoCAD program on the desktop, and we also have that TD template file that we previously downloaded. You're going to want to make sure that you have that file as well. I double left clicked on the program file to launch the program, and that will go through and load the entire program. What I need to do then is begin a new drawing, and this is the first thing that we're going to take a look at, is how to open and start a new drawing. Now, I previously talked about how we have that TD template. That is what we need to load every time. Now if you get this pop-up here, I just click that I don't want to participate in that, and then that should not come up again. So once AutoCAD loads, we're going to go up to the application menu located in the top left hand corner. I'm going to left click once, and it's going to bring up some different options. I'm going to select new, and that's going to allow me to find my template, which is located on the desktop. So I'm going to navigate to the desktop by left clicking once, and I'm going to locate my TD template file and open that. And that is going to load a whole bunch of different settings into the program. That's really going to help us get started drawing quickly. So the first thing you need to do every time you open AutoCAD, come up to the application menu, go to new, navigate to that TD template, and load that TD template every time you start a new drawing. Now if we take a look in our window, we have our main drawing area. We have a bunch of different tool buttons and bars up towards the top, and we have some information down at the bottom. Now if you remember from a previous video, we docked this command line onto the bottom, and this is going to help us input some different information as we progress through these different drawings. So what we need to do now is we need to figure out how to draw a line. That's where we're going to get started, is just drawing lines. So there's a bunch of different ways, and one thing about AutoCAD is there's about 10 different ways to do the exact same thing, and you just need to pick which one you like the best, which one is quickest for you, or maybe even just which one you remember. So the simplest way is we're going to make sure we're in the home menu, and up here we could click on all these different ones, but we want to be in the home menu, and we're going to come over here and locate the draw area of our home menu. And the line command is a big button labeled line, and if we move our mouse on top of it, a little tool tip pops up that says it's line, and it gives us a little example of what that line segment might look like. And you can do that with any of these different ones up here. This one is multiple points, and it shows you that. For this particular part, we are just going to draw a line. So I'm going to left click once on that line, and then I'm going to move my mouse down into my drawing area, and I'm going to left click somewhere in my drawing area and then move the mouse around. Now I just clicked once, I didn't click and hold the button, and as you can see, the first place that we clicked started that line, and then I can pull that line any direction that I want to go. Now what I want you to do now is click somewhere else and then pull the line again, and you can see that we're making different line segments. And I just want you to take some time and click around the screen and make a whole bunch of different lines. And again, we are just left clicking one time to make all of these different line segments. So now that we've made a lot of different line segments, we need to figure out how to stop making the line segments. Because if we just keep clicking, then they just keep making more line segments. Again, there's 10 different ways to stop our line from making more lines. One way, which I find is the easiest, is to press the escape key on your keyboard. And when you press the escape key, it backs out of whatever command you're in. So we were in the line command, and I wanted to be done with it, so I hit escape, and it backed out of that line command. Okay, now I'm going to show you another way to make a line. Down here in the command line, we can just type some stuff in, and you don't have to actually click down there. You can be up in your drawing area, and you can just start typing, and that's going to put the information in the command line. So I'm going to type the word line and press enter on the keyboard, and then I can go ahead in here and start clicking and making more line segments. Press escape to stop that. Now I'm also going to just press L and hit enter, and that's another way that we can start making lines. So there's a lot of different ways to do the exact same thing, and again, you just pick the one that you want and the one that works the best, maybe just the one that you can remember. So I said there was a bunch of different ways to end the lines also. So I'm going to go back, and this time I'm going to just select my line button up here, and I'm going to start making some lines. We know now that we can press escape to end the line command. We could also right click one time and go to enter, and that would end it. We could right click and go to cancel, and that would end it. We could be making more lines, and we could press enter on our keyboard, and that would end it. So realistically there's like 10 different ways to do everything within AutoCAD, and again, it just comes down to what you remember, what's easiest, what's fastest, what's quickest for you. So that's the premise of making lines, which is the very first thing that we need to learn how to do, because all of the drawings are composed of lines. Now I also wanted to point out that anytime we do start a new command, so again, if I come up here to line, we can take a look in the command line down here, and that's going to tell us what we're supposed to do next. So I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to back out of this command. I'm going to come up and click the line command, and all of a sudden the command line down at the bottom says that we selected line and we need to specify a first point. So we could click and we could pull our line, and the command line says specify next point. So we could just keep clicking around, and it's going to just keep telling us to select the next point. So if any point during this process you get confused at what you need to be doing, you can always take a look at the command line, and you can always reference that, and that's going to help you and tell you what you need to do next. Now, likewise, if you ever get to a point where something just gets kind of messed up, you can always press the escape key on your keyboard a few times, and that's going to back you out of whatever you're in. The next thing I want you to do is come up to the application menu, and we're going to load a new TD template drawing again, and we're going to explore another feature that AutoCAD has. Now I'm going to go up to my line command, and I'm going to left click one time to select it. I'm going to come down to my drawing area, and I'm going to select a point on my drawing just by left clicking one time, and then I'm going to move the mouse around, and just to show that I have one point selected, my command line down at the bottom is wanting me to select another point. Then you can see that that's connected to that first point. As you rotate this line around, you'll notice that there are different measurements. There's some different angles, there's some different length measurements. As I rotate it, it kind of sticks or snaps at certain parts. Go ahead and press the escape key to back out of that line, and take a look down here towards the bottom. Okay, these two buttons are going to help control the line. We have ortho mode and we have polar mode or polar tracking. What I want you to do right now, polar tracking is blue, which means that that is selected. I want you to click ortho mode, and you'll notice that polar mode turned off. Now if we go back and click polar mode, then ortho mode turns off. So you can only have one of these selected at a time. We're going to select ortho mode, so it should be blue, and we're going to come up here to our line command, left click one time. I'm going to select a point in the middle of my drawing, and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did before, where I rotate the mouse around in a circle. Now you'll notice that when ortho mode is selected, you can only draw lines up, down, left, right. It is only allowing us to snap to up, down, left, right. If you come down here and select polar mode, all of a sudden now we are back to where we were at, where we can go in all sorts of different angles, and it will still snap to that up, down, left, right. So the difference between ortho and polar mode is that polar allows you to do angles, and ortho mode restricts your line to up, down, left, right. Now this is useful because sometimes you want to make sure that your lines are only going up, down, left, right, and you don't want to have them maybe accidentally get at a slight angle. So this is a useful feature that we will be using down the road. For me personally, I keep it in polar mode most of the time. There are a few times though when you really have to have it in that ortho mode. So that's the main difference between ortho and polar. The next thing I want you to do is come back up here to the application menu, and we're going to select new, and we're going to load another TD template file. We're going to start a new drawing again. This time we're going to talk about object snap. Okay, if we come down here towards the bottom, we have lots of different buttons. Okay, we are looking at these two particular buttons right now, and specifically this one that says object snap, not the one that says object snap tracking. We're going to talk about that one a little bit later. We're focusing on this object snap mode. Okay, what I want you to do is turn off the object snap so that it is not selected in blue. Then we're going to come up here to our line command, left click one time to select it. I'm going to select a point kind of up towards the top left of my drawing area, and I'm going to pull that down somewhere towards the bottom, and I'm going to pull that across, and we're going to make a rectangle. That's what we want to do. So I'm going to pull up here a little ways, and then I need to connect these points up. Now it's okay if the rectangle is a little bit crooked, but I need to connect my line back together. Now I'm having some issues where it's wanting to snap to that going straight to the left. So I'm actually going to come down here and I'm going to turn off my polar mode. And that's going to allow me just to draw some angled lines, and it shouldn't snap. So I can a little bit more easily connect those together. Now we are doing this with object snap turned off. Okay, keep that in mind. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to try to line that up there, and I didn't quite get it lined up quite right. So I'm going to try that again. So I'm going to make a new rectangle or square, or make it as best you can. I'm going to try to line those up. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, now on my screen I'm going to use a zoom feature, and I'm going to zoom in on these points and see how close they are to being lined up. Now this one you can see isn't quite lined up. We're going to see how close this one is. Hopefully we're right on. Keep in mind, object snap is turned off. On my mouse I have a scroll wheel in the middle, and I'm going to roll that wheel forward. I'm going to have my cursor kind of on that corner. I'm going to roll that wheel forward, and obviously we can see that this isn't lined up. Rolling that wheel forward zooms in. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Rolling the wheel backwards zooms out. So I'm going to zoom back out. And let's take a look at this one here. This one looks like it's lined up pretty good. And I'm going to zoom in, and it looks like we got pretty close. Looks like that one's lined up. So that's good. This time what we want to do is we want to come down and turn on object snap. So I'm going to select object snap, or click it with the left button one time. And I'm going to come up here to line, and I'm going to make another box. 3 sides here, but this time as I move my mouse close to my first point, we see a little square show up, and we see that it kind of wants to jump over there. That's the object snap function. It allows you to snap, or kind of almost magnetically connect to that point. And having that little green square tells us that it's going to object snap to the end point. And it says right on there, end point. Now realistically, I don't even have to be touching that. I can just have my cursor close to that end point and then left click one time, and it'll automatically jump that line there. And then we can roll the wheel forward and zoom in and see that it is perfectly lined up. Now this second square that we created when object snap was turned off, I think we got a little bit lucky in having that line up so accurately. In industry, if you don't have object snap turned on, your stuff is not going to be connected together, and that's going to pose major problems when your drawings go into production. The next thing we're going to talk about is the rodent basics, meaning you use a mouse to control the arrow on the screen. The mouse is a rodent, if you will, and there's some different functions with that mouse that are really going to help us. Now in this little rectangle square activity, we took a look at the zoom function by using the wheel on the mouse to zoom in and zoom out. Zoom in and zoom out if you roll that wheel. Okay, that's going to be extremely handy. You're going to use that a lot. I also want you to push the wheel in. So we're going to push the wheel in, and then we're going to move the mouse around. Now that allows you to pan your drawing. And you can see when you push the wheel in, it turns into the little pan icon hand, and move the mouse around, it allows us to pan our drawing. So for example, if I'm zoomed in really close, and I pan the drawing, I push the wheel in and drag the mouse to the left, I can move along that drawing. That's going to be another useful tool. Now, one thing that sometimes happens is I'm going to zoom in really far. So I'm zoomed in all the way. I can't see anything because my lines are outside of my drawing area, but I know I have a drawing on there. And when I try to zoom out and zoom in, I don't see any of my lines. What you can do is you can double click by pushing in the wheel. You can double push in the wheel 2 times, double clicking the wheel itself, and that's going to bring any drawing or any line that you've made into your viewable area. So again, we can roll the wheel to zoom in and zoom out. We can push the wheel in and move the mouse around, and it allows us to pan our drawing. And then we can also double click the wheel, and anything that we've drawn, it fills the screen so we can see it. If we're zoomed in really close, we can double click it, it zooms out. If we're zoomed out, we can double click it, it zooms in. The left click button allows us to select things, and we learned that when we left clicked on the line command, or when we left clicked on the application menu. So the left click button allows us to select things. If you right click one time, it gives us some different options, and we're going to be using these options down the road, but I want to make it aware that we can get more options by right clicking. And again, we'll use those down the road. So those are the rodent basics. And the last thing that we're going to talk about for this lesson is how to save a drawing. Okay, let's say we have this drawing here and we've worked on it, and it comes a point where we need to take a break or stop for the day, so we need to save our drawing. Now realistically, I recommend saving your drawing every 5 minutes, even sooner than that, just in case something happens. To save our drawing, we're going to come up here to the application menu, and we're going to select Save. Now that's going to bring up a typical pop-up window that allows us to save our drawing. I'm going to be putting my drawing on the desktop. Now I have a lot of other junk on here, so I'm going to do a new folder, and I'm going to name this AutoCAD. And let's open up that folder, and the way I want you to be naming these files is I want you to use your last name. So I'm going to use Olson, and then our drawing number. Now since this is a sample drawing that we're just practicing with, we're going to do 0-1, meaning this is kind of like unit 0. It's actually unit 1, but just a sample drawing. The first number is a unit. The second number is the drawing that we're working on. So this would be Olson 01. And again, we're just learning this, and you can delete this one later. And I'm going to click Save. Okay. So now I'm going to close out of this drawing, this little X right here. And I have one of those other drawings again. And just to illustrate saving, again, application menu, save. Let's name this one Olson 0-2. Save. And then we can close out of that. And maybe we want to save this as Olson 0-3. Save. I'm going to minimize my AutoCAD program, and on the desktop I have my folder that I created, and I have some files in here. Now these two files down here, this .dwl, .dwl2, those files are currently active in AutoCAD. So if I open AutoCAD and I close out of that file, Let's see if it got rid of those. Yep, they're gone. So they're gone. AutoCAD files are .dwg, and they have this type of icon.